Hello YouTube and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. We have patch 5.1b at our hands and we'll talk about this today. So let's read the patch notes together and let's share our thoughts. Okay, no new champion this patch, but we are cooking up something else. We have a new mode for Final Stand coming out, new events, a new skin line, and not one but two champion reworks. Welcome to patch 5.1b. The content will be released throughout the patch. First off, we have the new feature Final Stand Challenge Mode. Were you playing Final Stand and thought to yourself, gee, I wish this could go on further? No, it can with Challenge Mode. Continue your adventure as Callista and see how long you can last against the Iron Order. Will be available starting on the 16th of May. We have multiple events, which is two, which is going to be Siege of the Blessed Isles, immersing Callisto's lore with the Siege of the Blessed Isle event. Battle your way through waves of the Iron Order and earn rewards. It begins at the 16th of May. Journey to Mastery. Misfortune and Riven are getting an overhaul this patch. Try them out and earn rewards like Horror Energy. Guys, the Riven rework is literally like, okay, let's just say you go into a very interesting store and you pick up everything that changes your state of mind. That is like what they did when they thought about giving Riven an ultimate reset. So like, we'll talk about this in the patch notes. But now let's talk about champion changes. First off, we have Amumu. Our resident lonely mummy has been finding it difficult to deal effective damage, both to jungle creeps and in teamfights. These changes will make sure his teams, or his tiers, are a lot more substantial now. The base damage is increased by 5, and the percentage damage is increased by 0.4 across all ranks. This makes tank Amumu a lot more potent, since with this he is less incentivized to go more damage. So if you're facing, for example, full physical damage compositions and you have the ability to go for Shimmering Crown? No, Searing Crown. It's Searing Crown. Searing Crown and this, you have a lot of DPS, but the question is this going to be good enough for the one-shot meta, or do you just want to go in and, like, your damage is not relevant, but your CC is, so... Yeah, Amumu was already okay in game, so Amumu was okay. This makes him better. It's a very good tank pickup, but yeah, it's just a tank, you know how it goes. Aurelion Soul. It's been difficult approaching Aurelion Soul considering his range. We're adjusting the numbers on his skills to make sure he remains a reasonable opponent. That is true, Aurelion Soul is goddamn broken, and for the fact that games are never ended, he becomes even more broken, and his ultimate is just way too easy in the sense of dealing damage. So what are they doing to him? Breath of Light, a maximum range of Starfire 70-50 to 9-2, from 70-50 to 848. Movement speed during Breath of Light is reduced from 155 to 133. Singularity, range of casting, is reduced from 70-50 to 902 to 750 and 848. This puts him more in line and enables some counterplay, because if you think about this, most of the AD carries don't even get close to hitting an Aurelion Soul, and by the time they get close enough with the power of his Rylais, if you look at the old range he has, the people would already be dead to his first ability. So this nerf is more than welcome. I think that's okay. I don't think it will kill Aurelion Soul, it will just enable him a bigger layer or give you more chances to actually play against this champion without being an assassin with 50 dashes that jumps on top of him. For Aurelion Soul players, it will feel bad at first, but they will realize, in the grand scheme of things, it should have been that way regardless, because, well, this champion is way too overtuned for how easy he is to deal damage with. We have a Brand buff. Brand is a glass cannon that can shatter as soon as an enemy looks at him late game. We are improving his survivability to make sure he's able to set the rift aflame. They're giving him 9 health per level. They're reducing the mana cost on his second and third ability. So, this is just a placebo buff. It's nice to have more HP. It's not going to change anything in the grand scheme of things. He'll still get one shot. His ability to deal damage will be completely limited by facing certain damage compositions, and he will not deal enough damage to actually deal with the people he's facing. Because yeah, Brand in the current WildRift really doesn't do too much. I hate to say it, but it really doesn't do too much. I really hope they're reworking him in the future to actually make him a jungle pick, so he has more possible roads to be played in, because he really feels terrible as of this moment. Garen has not been doing so hot in the laning phase lately. These changes will make sure he's able to fully scale during the laning phase and contribute to later team fights. The health regeneration is quite literally being doubled. The 2+ champion level. Okay, just giving Garen more regen during the early game. I mean, in the mid game, he never had issues with the health regen anyway, but yeah, during the laning phase, it's very helpful. And the second thing is absolutely insane. I do not know what Riot thought of this, but look at this. Duration of the damage reduction from 2 to 5 seconds to 4 at all ranks, and the damage reduction at the first second is from 70 to 80%, which means that trading, if you just skill the second ability and extend traits, is absolutely bonkers. The damage mitigation you gain is just absolutely stupid, and Garen level 5 with Ignite is an absolute demon champion. He just walks at you, auto attack, first ability, third ability, Ignite, ult, bye. That's just how Garen plays, and if people still don't understand how Garen can be played and how to utilize this champion's kit, then, well, you have these kind of buffs. And let me tell you this is going to get worse and worse and worse. Because you think about this, what does Garen struggle the most into? People he can't kill. Who can't he kill? People who stack Heartsteel, people who are just abusing Heartsteel. And Garen is not really a notorious Heartsteel champion. Surely you can go for it, but I think 50 billion patches ago they changed something about the base damage of his ultimate in general, just damage scaling, so he's more incentivized to go for more AD. So feeling like going Heartsteel just puts you into a spot where your base damage is not enough into most Heartsteel tanks to do or accomplish anything. But yeah, they're also buffing his third ability's damage scaling by 5% AD. So yeah, he's not incentivized to go Heartsteel, has the option to go Heartsteel, but I don't think he will win the matchups into Heartsteel champions, completely overtuned, like Mundo and Volibear. But yeah, another typical, oh my, I remember the Garen meta in the past. Oh my god, Garen was so goddamn overtuned. And people still, like, if I just highlight this, like, people actually didn't max this second. So if you play WildRift, you should understand that this ability on Garen should have been max second. So you max your third ability, you only put 1 point into your first ability, and then you max your second ability. Because this here, you see this here, this part, where it says damage reduction timer of up to 5 seconds, plus the cooldown goes down, this was horrendously broken, enabling Garen just to be the frontline. And if you know what happens if a frontliner stands on top of an AD carry, they die. The AD carry just dies without being able to do anything because, well, they don't do enough damage to deal with the Garen. But we are lucky, I don't think that will come back ever due to how the game functions right now. But if the Garen, for whatever obscure reason ever, gets to go for Heartsteel, Titanic and other AD items, well, you best believe you're in a lot of trouble. You won't kill that guy. Graves. Graves is getting some tweaks so you can pop off harder with the new Infinity Edge. Damage of each bullet is increased by equipping with the Rune Infinity Edge from 40% to 50%. Number one, we need to call out Riot here. They're lying. In the game right now it's 45%. It's not 40, it's 45. Right? I fact checked this, you're liars. And I haven't checked now after the patch if it's really 50 or 55, but it was 45 before. I'll show you the screenshots in the game, you will see. End of the line, damage of the first phase is being increased by 10 flat. Ah, I see. Damage of the first phase. So they're only increasing the first instance of this one, okay. So for all of you wondering if this makes Graves even stronger, it makes him stronger, but he still suffers from the same fundamental issue. How does Graves, a low-range champion, reach enemy champions? Think of a champion that has half the range, no, less than half the range of a Vayne. He probably has less range than some melee champions have. How is he going to get close to actually deal that damage without being one-shot beforehand? How can he maneuver himself through the game to actually put himself at a point where he can deal damage? So I think this damage buff is just typical Riot stuff. They're like, how can we balance things? Yeah, we just give him more damage. Any other ideas? More damage. Anyone else? Ah, more damage. So if the Graves comes close to you, he just one-taps you, which he did do in the past anyway if he gets close to you, but now he just one-taps you even harder. And for the jungle role, most of the time you will still just go for sudden impact into Yumu's Ghostblade as your first items because they're just too powerful, and with the Yumu's changes that Yumu's is more expensive, you know, it's kind of a difficult spot to be in. And he also gets dumpstered by every single other of the meta junglers regardless. So what does this change really do outside of just making you feel better? Also, by the way, since if you trust Riot tooltips, which I do not do nowadays because, well, they're always lying, Graves crits do not increase the base damage of his first hit, apparently, but only increase the damage of the pallets. So instead of 4 pallets, you have 6 pallets, and the damage per pallet is increased. So you actually are dealing not much more damage with Infinity Edge compared to, for example, other items that you maybe need to survive. So it's another question of, do you want to be the biggest glass cannon in the West, or do you just want to be a little bit of a bruiser champion? Because usually you had this lovely illusion or this lovely gameplay loop of having Graves as the super tanky, super heavy bruiser into physical damage compositions, but you can't really achieve anything. He just gets one tap. So I don't think he's gonna get much better. Better than before for sure, but not much better. Darvin was primed for fighting in all stages of the game, but he's been looking fragile recently. We're tweaking his defensive stats so he can stay standing on business. Base health regeneration is being increased from 9 to 12, the typical Yasuo treatment. The Golden Aegis is also being increased in the flat department and in the scaling department, and that's quite heavily. We are seeing an increase by 20 flat on rank 1 as well as 1% max health scaling just given out for free. The slow is also seeing a massive increase from 20 to 30 on rank 1, which is a massive change because usually I think you only put 1 point into this because you want to have your third and first ability maxed. So 10% slow increase on your second ability on 1 point investment is quite insane. We're also seeing another buff for the Marcian standard, is that the attack speed is being increased by 5%. If I'm not mistaken, the bonuses are doubled for J4 himself, so it's 10 for him. I might be mistaken, so let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong about this one. But yeah, very nice Darvin buffs. Darvin can go for a full bomber build with full damage, full lethality, just one-shot them all. You know how it goes with the crit build. And other than this, he can go for a more bruiser variant, which I'm not too much of a fan of with the current WildRift as it is, but yeah. Kayle is getting some base stat buffs to help her get through the early game and mid game smoothly while maintaining her power as a strong late game champion. First off, that's a blatant lie. Kayle is not even a strong late game champion anymore because of how the damage in the game works, and well, her only real tool is the ultimate, making her able to shield people from getting one-shot, allowing them to one-shot. So technically speaking, Kayle level 5 already reached her power spike of just providing one ally, the fail-safe card, the jail-free card of not getting one-shot. So the base stats of basic armor getting increased from 30 to 34, and the growth of armor is from 3.5 to 4 per level. The Starfire Spellblade active damage is being increased by 1% of the lost health. Okay, big issue with Kayle. So please, in the comment section, list me one winning Kayle matchup. Which matchup does Kayle win without the enemy being an absolute goblin? And now, with the current changes to keep in mind the Baron lane and the baby scanner, how many matchups does Kayle win until 2 minutes so she can secure this lovely baby scanner? And how many matchups does Kayle win once they have boots? Out of all the top laners, which game does Kayle win? And if you need anyone to help you, then again, that's not going to be too much of a difference maker because Kayle does only tickle. Kayle's damage is really not that high. I mean, you can talk about the Terminal's Kayle build, which is, yeah, you need like 6 auto attacks to get all the effects, and by then you're like dead 19 times, so you need to pray and scale. But praying and scaling doesn't really function if your champion gets completely dumpstered by any champion on the WildRift roster. So yeah, we're buffing Kayle finally. I mean, Riot Anthem said Kayle was fine in like 50 years ago. Kayle was never fine like when they nerfed all her base stats into the oblivion. But yeah, modern day Kayle, I don't really think it's a champion you want to pick. Maybe you can pick it in the jungle and have like this weird fantasy of just scaling to like 50 minutes like all the Kayle players do that play duo Q with an enchanter mid lane. But yeah, I don't really think that's going to do too much. It's just a placebo change. I don't really think that changes any of her losing matchups into winning matchups and any of her close matchups, into slightly winning matchups. And her winning matchups, I can't even think of anything that Kayle would win if the enemy is remotely acting human. So yeah, I don't really think that does anything. Kane has been dealing too much damage recently. We're adjusting his numbers to bring him back down to earth. The second ability's damage is getting lowered in percentage scaling by 20% scaling. Wow, that's quite a lot. And the ult scaling is also being reduced by 10%. But let me take a sip here. If you're honest, when a Kane touches you, the damage problems were from his form, right? So we see that, for example, if you take the blue form, losing 20% scaling on AD also loses bonus damage from the blue passive form. So this might actually be a bigger change than people might believe, but with how much damage is in the game, I think he will still one-shot you. I think the nerfs are good, don't get me wrong. This makes his early game a weaker though, like his early mid game before he has form. But again, with how much damage is in the game, if you get killed by 150% to 0 or to 110% to 0, doesn't really make too much of a difference from my perspective. But at least they're realizing that we have a damage problem with certain champions and they're like tackling it. Even though it will probably not do too much in the grand scheme of things because you have blue form Kane and just one shot, yeah, and red form Kane, lethality, also just one shot with first ability. So I don't really know I really like that they're touching Kane, because fighting against the Kane, like a blue Kane, was very unsatisfying, because you just one taps you, but yeah. Master Yi, with further optimizing Meditate so you can sustain damage reduction even if his channeling is interrupted. This will give Master Yi more opportunity to show off his swordsmanship in teamfights. Terrible change. Nope. Riot Games, please stop doing so. You're literally having an ability that you have to press to take the damage mitigation, and now you give it for free for an extended period of time afterwards, which means there's little counterplay or lower counterplay available to actually deal with this champion. Now just imagine the outburst, the outcry, the anger if you give an AD carry a damage mitigation tool of that caliber. Let's just say, hey, we have Vayne Tumble. Vayne Tumble reduces the damage taken after being unstealthed for 0.5 seconds by 50%, 60%, 70%. People would go crazy over this. And with Yi, you have multiple layers of this defensive mechanism. You have the meditate mechanism, which heals you and gives you damage mitigation. Now you gain 0.5 seconds of additional damage mitigation, which will allow you to input auto attacks, which will allow you to access your other damage mitigation tool, which, well, is also a damage dealing tool, which is your first ability, the Alpha Strike. So this change, I don't know what Riot is cooking, but they're crazy. And for his third ability, Vuju style, true damage from attacks is being increased by a flat amount of 5, but the scaling is reduced by 5 as well. So we have up to 10 bonus damage. No, wait, we lose. No, we gained 5 early game, but we lose 5 late. Okay, now we got it right. And we lose 5 scaling. So Riot Games, they're just removing some damage and giving you tools that are horrendously broken. We love Riot Games. Misfortune. Misfortune is getting an overhaul on her passive double up and strut. We hope these changes will make her feel smoother to play as she chases down her opponents. Misfortune's rework will be live on the 13th of May. Love to have. The old passive was dealing physical damage when you attack a new enemy target. The new passive applies Love Tap when attacking enemy champions or epic monsters. At 3 stacks, increases Misfortune's damage to target by 8%, increasing with champ level. Does it mean it starts with 8% or it's the first start? Because Misfortune right now, like, First Strike got nerfed, PTA is an absolute horrendously terrible rune for nearly every champion in the game, apart from Lucian and Renekton, and who else, I can't really think of it right now. But the rune is absolutely terrible, and I really hope they change it very soon. And this one will make it even scale harder, but again, I'm curious to see this, if the 8% is the highest level scaling or just the first level scaling. So let's just wait until we see the actual rework in place. First ability, Double Up. The second hit from Double Up will critically strike and apply 3 stacks of Love Tap. So your first ability instantly applies the damage benefit, the damage enhancing effect. Interesting. Strut. Reduce a triggering Love Tap during the cooldown reduces the cooldown by 2 seconds. Attacking targets with full stacks of Love Tap reduces the remaining cooldown of Strut by 1 second. This is a massive nerf, no? This is a massive nerf for the second ability. I think they have to change that again, because you're losing so much mobility with that one. But yeah, we wait until we see how it goes once it's live. Pike. Pike's stun lasts a long time, making it difficult to play around. We're changing how long it lasts to ensure fair counterplay. Stun time is 1.5 plus 1.5% armor penetration to 1.25 plus 1% armor penetration. So here's the problem. I think in late game you stunned up to like 2.84 seconds or something on Pike. You died 4 times in the time of being stunned. Your access to tenacity is terrible. You barely have any access to that one. The only sources of getting tenacity that are giving you tenacity in a good form is probably QSS, while pressing it and turning yourself immune to crowd control, and Sterak's Gauge. Tenacity in runes and overall is just feeling very bad, and the time you need to think about this from a different perspective. If you get stunned by Pike, which champions are being affected by the stun that the stun is mitigated? It's mostly tanks though, because if you are a squishy or a mage, if you get stunned for 2.8 seconds or for 2.2 seconds, you are still dead. You will still die. There's just no question, you will die. As much as I like the change that they're lowering the stun duration, for the damage dealers, for AD carries, mages, it will not make a difference. It will make a difference against tanks, which Pike sucks into in the first place. But what will happen is a lot of Pike 1 tricks or mains of this champion that grew really accustomed to the duration of their stun to mess up a lot of things because they have their, like, the stun timer completely hard-coded into their brain. But yeah, this is, I think, not going to be the downfall of the Pike. Pike is still going to be unbalanced, so don't worry, Pike mains. You just still have to learn the champion on a different level again. That your stun isn't as long as I need to do my laundry, and I take days, by the way. Ramis is getting a speed boost so he can zoom around the rift and help his laners faster. Rolling movement speed 35 plus champion level times 2 is 60 plus champion level times 1. Interesting. That is a very interesting change. I just don't know what Riot is sometimes thinking about this, so like I really don't. And I think this is a nerf for later levels, right? Because 35 plus champion level, we get up to 50, it's 100, and then we have 60 plus up to 15 is 75, so 75. So it's an early game buff, and yeah, it's a late game nerf in terms of speed. Okay, Powerball. Movement speed increases by a maximum 105% plus level plus 5% to maximum 115% plus level plus 5%. So he's a little bit faster now. Little Ramis, really good champion into AD compositions. Outside of that one, just don't do it. And also like a little sneaky trick. If enemy picks Lee Sin, do yourself a favor and pick Ramis just to piss him off. You will understand once you taunt him with Aftershock what happens at Scuttlecrab. Riven is getting a reset, and also you can have the Dream Riven highlight clip you've also been dreaming of hitting. Check your replay. Riven's rework will be live on the 30th of May, exactly the same as Misfortune. Blade of the Exile. During Blade of the Exile, every takedown on a target resets the number of Windslash casts she has and extends his ability's duration for 3 seconds more, up to 12 seconds. So you're telling me, you're giving Riven an ultimate reset without any damage mitigation to it. Riven ult is an execute. Riven ult has an insane AD scaling, and Riven ult grants her a big portion of her AD, which then empowers her passive as well. So you now have the crit Riven build going absolutely rampant with how much damage is in the game, and Bruiser feels absolutely horrendously terrible to play, and you give her even more resets. So you go in, you just one-shot somebody, you just one-shot the next target, and you always have another tool of accessing the fight from afar, because let's say you go for 1 kill, and then it's over for you. Right now you can't reach anymore because you have a cooldown of all your abilities. And now with this, you still have a tool to access the fight from afar, or just contribute in some kind of way, by just dealing even more damage. So let's say you go in for a full combo, somebody flashes away and gets hit by the first instance of your Windslash, and the other target you get dies, and then you get a reset and you can just Windslash at him again, who just flashed away, and he dies as well. So this makes it so unbelievably frustrating to play into, and it just plays into the fantasy of adding more damage to the game, making it more crazy, more fast dopamine, 9999 collector, wow, like this kind of gameplay. And I do not like this at all. Swain. We are improving Swain's base stats and damage so he can shine both in laning and team fights. Base magic resist is being increased by 4, and team magic resist per level is increased from 1.5 to 2. That's actually a massive change. That is a lot of magic resistance into mage setups. That is a lot of damage mitigation. Because compared to getting armor, getting magic resist is usually tied to, buying items that grant you magic resist, whereas gaining armor is a lot easier because you gain so much more per level. Death's Hand. Damage of the first bolt is being increased by 5 flat and by a 4% scaling. Damage of each subsequent bolt is being increased by 2% scaling. So that's a lot of damage, by the way. That is a shotgun. And his first ability was already a shotgun, so this makes Swain overall a lot better. It will not incentivize the full tank Swain, which is a good thing. It still incentivizes you to build some kind of AP. But also with the base damage buffs, it will feel nicer than before. So if you play Swain, this is definitely something you should look forward to. Maybe he'll be playable into some mid lane matchups because he's finally able to be durable enough and has enough damage in the sense of wave clear. I need to know how much this changes for the wave clear when you get some AP, but yeah, we'll find out very soon. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think about Swain and generally your experiences with him. Because I think outside of broken support and one more player, I barely see anyone play Swain. Talon. Talon is rampaging through the jungle. We are making some changes so his opponents can fight back. Noxing Diplomacy. Damage is being reduced from 95 to 75 on level 1. That's a 20 damage loss. However, the health regeneration from taking down enemies is being increased from 10 to 35 on level 1. The second ability, Rake damage, is being reduced by 10 and by 5 scaling, and the return damage is also being reduced by 10, but no scaling changes. Okay, so if you remember, these two spells were the spells that were buffed by Riot Games after Talon was supposedly too weak. They changed the cooldown on his first ability as well as the damage numbers for the range Q. Okay, so what does change? Well, the one spell that you're not supposed to use for damage, for like range, your first ability, is now being lowered in damage, so you're more incentivized to go for the melee combo, which is very good. If you jump onto a target, it will still be primarily used as the movement spell and the stack applicant, rather than the damage of the spell itself. And for your second ability, this will lower your clear speed, which is annoying, because you lose damage. And it will also lose your impact before going in. So this change, like on one hand, they're buffing laning Talon, because they're giving you the takedown healing, which makes them a lot easier to play during the laning phase, because while you have a reset, like a cooldown refund on your first ability, as well as 35 healing right now, which is 35 healing level 1 is more than half of what an auto attack does. So he gets a lot of extra healing if he gets to last hit minions, similar to, for example, a Warwick. But yeah, this makes him better in the Baron lane, actually, where he's more incentivized to play around the melee range Qs and just like this region gameplay. Like I've played tank Talon top, it functions, it does okay into tanks because you just waltz away and you have a decent sustain from last hitting. But yeah, overall, this change is going to make Talon weaker, but he's still going to be annoyingly broken in solo queue thanks to his third ability, where he just can be anywhere he wants to be if he understands how to read the map. Viego Shin. Viego can be a little tricky to play, and we're not afraid to admit that, but we do want players to enjoy the range of complexity that comes to playing the Rune King. We are tweaking his abilities and make him easier to maneuver and smoother for his ability cast. So first off, this champion has just released, and we're already like, okay, let's buff him. How do we buff him, guys? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buffs in a same patch. What can go wrong, Riot Games, giving a champion 5 buffs within one iteration of his release, when people still are learning the champion and it needs to be a mastery curve? But I forgot, it's a mobile game, we need to keep people happy instantly, because otherwise there probably won't be any skin sales. So, obviously just joking. Base stats. Health per level is being increased from 120 to 128. Good tankiness change here, similar to Brand, but well, Brand just gets the health, but he gets so much more. The length of the Viego has to wait until possessing any soul with an ultimate is reduced from 1.5 to 1 second, which means it's a faster streaking time, similar to a Katarina. The health regen is also being increased from 2% to 5%, 4% for every 100 attack speed compared to 2.5%, and 2% for every ability power, which remains the same, and 5% for every attack speed. So it's a lot of extra healing, which I've talked about earlier. I said that Viego doesn't heal enough from possessing people. He really doesn't. So that's a good change. I think that's a fair change. Blade of the Rune King, passive. Bonus damage of attacks is being increased by 1% of the target's current health. The damage of the second hit sees a massive increase from 20% to 30% of the attack damage. And the active is also seeing an increase in the scaling department by 10%. So one might argue that this is still an on-hit dream, but I argue that this makes crit even better, because you have an increase from 20% of your attack damage to 30% of your attack damage, and it can crit. Natural more. Minimal stun duration is being increased from 0.25 to 4 seconds, increased size and speed of Black Mist. Okay, interesting. Nice change. You insta-stun somebody, 0.25 seconds felt too low. I agree, that's fine. But given all the other changes, things might get a little bit problematic. Heartbreaker. Cast range 425 to 500. Duration of the precast animation is 0.5 to 0.37. This will, I think, annoy a lot of people because of the buffering. Radius of the damage range is 275 to 300. And the bonus damage is being increased by 2.5% of your bonus AD as an execute of the target's missing health. So yeah, they are buffing crit Viego a lot with this. Obviously the other Viego variants also being buffed, but crit Viego, since he deals the highest entry damage as well as the highest execute damage, will probably be the most beneficiary of this one. Beneficiary? Beneficiary? Whatever, we just move on. We just add 2 E's at the end and we just pretend we speak English. Gameplay changes. Titanic Hydra. Titanic Hydra is a perfect item for bruisers, but it's providing too much health. We're adjusting its base stats. Maximum health 550 to 450. Okay, that's let's talk about the problem here. How many champions do build Titanic Hydra without building Heartsteel? How many? And if you have this list of champions, what does change when you have 3,500 HP or 3,400 HP? Why not tackle the damage component of Titanic Hydra and lower it a bit? Maybe increase its cooldown. I don't think it's necessarily the 100 health of the item, I think it's more like the damage of the item that's the problem. And since most users utilize it with Heartsteel, maybe just lower the AD scaling, the bonus health scaling, like anything damage related. Sunfire ages. We would like for tanks to consider Sunfire Age as an attractive pickup, so we are boosting its cost efficiency, 3000 to 2900, damage range from 275 to 325, and the bonus damage taken by enemies after being damaged by immolates, 7% for 5 seconds, up to 6 stacks, to 11% for 5 seconds, up to 4 stacks. Okay, we have one problem. Tanks nowadays build Titanic Hydra, Heartsteel, you have Amaranth Twin Guard, you have Mental of the 12th Hour, which is tremendously broken if you combine it with Titanic Hydra and Heartsteel, because it's not healing, it's gaining bonus health, so it's not mitigated by anti-healing, which is broken, and then you have one item slot, which you go for what then specifically? Because if you reach an enemy champion, like, here's the problem, if you reach an enemy champion, by the time you reach him, he's already dead, because you one-shot him. So realistically speaking, it will help you against tanks, but then you should rather go for Divine Sundra in your build than Sunfire Aegis. There's one niche scenario that we need to talk about though, is Sunfire at objectives. Because you can pre-stack these stacks here at objectives, and then have the Immolate passive ready when you turn on the enemy champions. But yeah, this is a very niche scenario, and honestly thinking, I do not see Sunfire Aegis as of right now in the game as a valid option unless they change something about its stats. Muramana. As a transformed item, Muramana is lacking compared to other items. We are buffing its passive to make sure it's reaching its full potential. The Awe passive grants AD equal to 1.5 of maximum mana, grants AD equal to 2% of the maximum mana. So this is just a buff to Ezreal. You can argue it could be a buff for Fiora if she's running Manamune. Every Manamune user got a little bit better. Manamune was already a very powerful item. The issue with the Manamune was the current game pace is too fast for Manamune to be useful, and you rather have a lethality of your first item as your first item, or just instantly go into crit. So the only champions that really make use of this could be Corki, who's probably better off with the Sense Reaver, and Ezreal. So Ezreal is probably the prime user of this one, so I think it's more of a buff directed towards Ezreal, which received a massive nerf with the removal of Krakenslayer. Fimbulwinter. This transformed item has been living up to the amount of time it takes to achieve its states. Hasn't, by the way. We're buffing its passive to lend it a hand. Grants bonus health equal to 8% of the bonus mana, grants bonus health equal to 10% of the bonus mana. Barely anyone builds this item. I think Narcissus and Blitzcrank only built this item outside of that one, so since it's a niche item, I don't really see the biggest change, or like the big change to this one. I don't really think it does anything outside of the champs that already want to build this, but yeah. Maw of Malmortius. If you're a marksman or a fighter up against a team with a decent amount of magic damage, it can be hard to deal with. We're adjusting more slightly so marksmen and fighters can deal with magic damage more efficiently. Demon Bane. Shield no longer decays with time. That's actually a big change. Because if, like, let's say you fight against full magic teams and you just quickly go into the jungle and you don't kill the minion, or you kill the monster, it just doesn't really matter, and you stack the shield and then you look at the enemy, that's like a standoff situation, and the standoff situation objectives might take longer than 15 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever, and then the shield will dissipate, and then with the shield disappearing, you need to think about, okay, as a marksman, you probably have like 2k health, and if the shielding is like, let's say 420, 420, it's still 20% of your health pool. And that's quite insane, because having or not having 20% of your health pool is a big difference. Okay, we go to the skins. Chroma Crash Gragas, 24th of May. He is getting a skill finally. It's not the KDA dream, but yeah. Chroma Crash Brand. I would have guessed he gets a buff. Interesting, but the buff is worthless. Also on the 24th, Chroma Crash Corki, Chroma Crash Zeri, Chroma Crash Brand Special Edition. Let's see the difference. The mask is so much cooler, no? Like, the mask looks so much cooler on the Special Edition. Good one, but the champion, is the champion gonna do anything? I highly doubt it, but yeah, we'll see. Chroma Crash Samira, Chroma Crash Echo, and Chroma Crash Yinx are all getting back on the 24th of May. Okay, we have some extra bits. Fix the description bug of Terminus. When equipped with Terminus, the upper limit of armor penetration magic penetration rate is 40%, but the penetration effect from champ's abilities can still break the upper limit. That is to be expected. Fix the bug of Mental of the 12th Hour. Now the bonus health gained from runes, heartsteel, and champion abilities will be correctly calculated when Mantle of the 12th Hour triggers a lifeline. That is quite insane, you know? If that was bugged before and the item was actually that broken already, then you don't want to play against this right now. Fix the bug of Death Dance. Now bonus health gain from blah 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 also triggers Dance. Okay, quite interesting. And with that, we're at the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and come back for more RiftGuides content. We are pushing out some more Chinese videos. We're working on the website. We're doing this, we're doing that. If you want a VOD review, you can check it out on the Patreon benefits as well. And as per usual, enjoy your day, have a beautiful day, and play some WildRift. No, don't. Well, just enjoy your day. Peace.